Now, if you were at Blue Route Shopping Mall yesterday afternoon, I have to apologize for the deafening screams coming from the upper level of the centre. That was because our book club guest today had just arrived, and there were a few hundred little girls waiting to get their books signed and their photographs taken with their favourite author. It was honestly such a joy to be part of that event and to see a crowd of young readers so excited about this writer. It was as if a K-pop band had just arrived at the centre, really. Rock star welcome from the kids. She is the author of the Lotty Brooks novels, which have captured the hearts of tween girls all over the world. She has sold over 1 million copies, and she's in South Africa promoting the most recent book in the series, Lotty Brooks versus the Ultra Mean Girls. More on them later. First, Katie Kirby, it's lovely to have you with us at CapeTalk. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Great pleasure. Katie, before you were a children's writer, you were actually a parenting blogger, and you published books on that sort of subject matter. Yeah. The blog was called Hurrah for Gin, for those who don't know. How old were your own boys when you started blogging about
They were,
parenting?
I think, about 2.5 and 6 months. So right in the kind of difficult, unrelenting era of parenthood.
Okay, so no wonder you needed an outlet.
I did, yeah.
And I mean, it took off on a huge scale, and lots of parents just finding resonance with what you were saying and what you were drawing as well as writing about on that blog. The illustrations became very much your thing. And anybody who saw that blog and has followed Katie's later work will know fairly simple sort of stick figures with speech bubbles, and speech bubbles that often made you laugh out loud because they were saying what we were all thinking, even when it wasn't very pretty about parenting, that is. I believe it was those illustrations that actually were part of the hook that got you dragged into the world of children's writing.
Yeah, I think so. My publishers saw them. They sort of saw some of my blog posts and obviously my books, and suggested that they were quite silly and immature and would perhaps work quite well for the children's market too. So they asked me if I'd thought about writing for children, and I said, of course I had. And that's how Lottie was born, really.
Let's explore there. Had you thought about writing specifically for children? Had you thought about writing as a full-time career? Are you one of those people who grew up dreaming of it?
Yeah, I was absolutely one of those people who grew up dreaming of it, and I've always written, from diaries when I was little to short stories to entering competitions, etc., etc. But I guess I never really thought that it could be a job for me. So I went into a more traditional line of work, and then it wasn't until I had the young kids at home, and I'd been made redundant from my proper job, and I started writing as a bit of an outlet and as a hobby, really. And then luckily it sort of turned into my actual job, and now I get to do what I love for money, which is good, which is great.
For money and adoration. I mean, the fan response yesterday said it all.
It was crazy.
Books have just captured hearts everywhere.
Yeah.
Look, let me just start by saying this. Anybody in our audience who has a tween girl in the house, whether it's a daughter or a granddaughter or a sister or a friend's child, I'm sure you will be familiar with the exploits of Lotty Brooks, who is the heroine of this series. But maybe for the sake of those who've not met her, can I ask you to introduce us to Lotty?
Yeah, Lottie is a very average 11-year-old girl when we first meet her. She's going through a lot of changes in her life. Her best friends just moved away to Australia. Her family life is very chaotic, and she's just about to start secondary school, totally alone, and she's got to make friends, fit in, and the books are about how she navigates all of those things that she comes across in her life, and how she quite often gets them completely wrong and makes a bit of a fool of herself, but always gets through it at the end of the day, learn some lessons, and and teaches us all that it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to be yourself.
And that it is survivable to look a little bit foolish and say the wrong thing and be laughed at, that it's something you can come back from.
Exactly.
Which I think is really important to emphasize for kids today. She's also got terribly embarrassing parents and siblings and pets. Won't you tell us a little bit about the family around Lottie?
Yeah, I mean, quite often people say that the mum and dad look quite like me and my husband. So it's just a bit of a coincidence, really. But Lottie's home life is quite chaotic. She's got a really annoying little brother who's 7 when we first meet him, and his hobby is kind of bursting into her room and farting on her. And then mum accidentally gets pregnant with another sibling, so she's also got a newborn baby in the first book, and then in the more recent books she also gets a puppy. So there's a lot going on in Lottie's household. It's full of chaos and drama.
Now, the books follow a diary format, and if you are of my generation, I'm sure you will remember The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole. I think he was aged 13 and a half or something like that. So this is a very similar sort of book in that it's a diary. Obviously, it's told from a girl's perspective this time. Lottie's a little bit younger at 11 3/4 when we first meet her, but it reminded me of those books straight away, Katie, because there is the sense of being real and talking about the real anxieties and the real silly concerns that, that from an outsider's perspective, they're silly, but to the person writing the diary, they are very, very serious and all-consuming. Were you a diary writer yourself?
I was. I loved writing a diary. I kind of went on and off it, I think, as most people do. Sometimes you have a few months where you're writing every single day, and then other times, haven't written anything for a while. But I absolutely love looking back at my diary now because it's hilarious. All the things that you wouldn't remember, they're recorded. But often I want to go back and shake myself and say, what were you thinking? Why did you do that? Why did you do this? So, but yeah, it's a great way. And especially if you want to, thinking about being an author or something, it's a great way to practice your writing and find your own voice and style.
Okay, that's a good tip. Thank you. I think one of the reasons Lottie has proven to be so popular is she is such an every woman. I guess an every girl, we have to say in this case. But she's not the brightest. She's not the prettiest. She's not an A-team sports player.
Yeah.
She's not a standout in any way.
Yeah.
Especially as she goes as the youngster into a new sort of middle school. But she's just herself, and she gets things wrong and she blurts things out and she embarrasses herself. And I think it's because she is so ordinary that people relate to her.
Absolutely. I wanted her to feel very average and very relatable so that every reader can see some of themselves in Lottie. I think in books often we have like a really popular, really beautiful main character or something like that. So it was really important to me that she felt, super average and super normal.
And then she's got this wonderful friend, Jess, who is really a lovable character. And it was interesting to me yesterday when you asked that crowd of hundreds of girls who their favorite character was, a lot of them shouted out the name of Jess.
Yeah.
And I know you love her very much too.
I do. I think Jess is the real hero of the story because she doesn't try to be anyone she isn't. She's like 100% herself and she doesn't care what anyone thinks. And I think that's a really admirable quality, and that's exactly who you want in a friend. And so she's constantly teaching Lottie not to worry about fitting in, and not to go after being friends with all the popular crew because they're not real friends, basically.
Yeah. And this latest book really takes us deep into that recognition that you might get more than you asked for in trying to sidle up to this bunch. Because as the title suggests, Lottie Brooks versus the ultra mean girls.
Yeah.
She really comes up against some really nasty characters and finds herself on the receiving end of some really awful bullying. And that bullying spills over to some extent into the online space. And I'm really glad you went there, Katie, because we know right now there is so much concern about the amount of time kids are spending on screens, what they're being exposed to there, and how the social media world is being turned against them in some cases.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you write what is current, but I mean, you've been building up to this for a while as well because these mean girls have been there since book one, but they've really kind of blown up. I mean, talk to us about what the message you wanted to communicate.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky, isn't it? I've got a 15-year-old and a nearly 13-year-old, and the struggle with phones and online content is real, and I'm constantly having to say, get off your phone, but it's something that kids have to navigate now, and I wanted to kind of include that in a way and not scare the audience, but I think you've got to be really careful about what you're putting online and who you're being friends with, because it can really blow up in your face and it is going to be there forever. So just finding that balance, I think, knowing when to put your phone down and knowing to spend just a certain amount of time on it each day, rather than picking your phone up first thing in the morning and spending hours and hours scrolling, which is easy to do even as adults. I think it's tricky for us to kind of find that balance. So for kids it's almost impossible.
And they're copying what they see us do. So unfortunately, they're not having very good role models in some cases. Just for anybody who's come in halfway to this interview, my guest in studio is Katie Kirby, who has sold over 1 million books around the world. She is the author of the Lottie Brooks series, which are aimed at tween girls primarily. There were a few boys in the audience yesterday who seemed to be enjoying themselves too, for the record. But really, Lottie is in that in the middle of that market, the 9 to 12-year-old girl who is on the cusp of so much change in her life, from the transitions happening at school to the changes happening in their own bodies. And Katie, it's a series like this is such a lovely vehicle to be able to talk about those things and laugh about those things and also share those quiet anxieties you didn't want to say to anybody because you worried you're the only one who's worrying about them. I mean, you very deliberately use the books as a little bit of a teaching tool in that respect, very subtly, but you end each one with sort of a couple of points that you want to re-emphasize.
Yeah, I do. I like that each book has a learning journey for Lottie, and that she goes through, this kind of journey within each book. And at the end, she kind of thinks through all of the things she's been through and how she can use those experiences to better shape herself. Often she goes back and makes the same mistakes again, but don't we all? And I think it's important that we all are constantly trying to improve ourselves, and the books are there to show that you don't have to be perfect. We're all constantly learning.
What I really like particularly about this latest one is there are real life consequences for the bullying behavior and the social media behavior. And I don't want to give away too much in terms of plot line here, but not to a terrifying degree. This is a young readership, so you've got to balance that carefully. But there are consequences for the people involved in behaving badly online in their real lives. And I like that you did that it's a reminder that this isn't just something that happens out there and can be forgotten about, that it impacts people in real life and the consequences in real life can be real. So I think it's really good that you did that.
Oh, thank you.
I also really like the fact that you emphasized how important it is to know when to ask for adult help, because Lottie struggles with that. She internalizes a lot, and she writes in her diary when she should really be going to mom and dad and saying, hey, I've got a problem that's actually too big for me to deal with.
It's tricky, isn't it? And I think it's very easy to just try and deal with these things on your own, and Lottie is doing that so much of the time, and then the problem builds and builds and gets bigger and bigger until mum and dad eventually find out anyway, and then they're really cross because they're like, why didn't you tell us when it was, when this first became apparent, and then we could have helped you. But that's another lesson that Lottie has to learn the hard way.
Yeah, she does. She's got a couple of bruises and cuts and bruises and nicknames along the way as well to help her learn these lessons. The audience literally squealed yesterday when you told them that you were busy working on a new one already.
Yes.
Are you allowed to tell us anything at all about where Lottie's story goes next?
Why not? I mean, at the end of if any listeners have read the Ultra Mean Girls book, you'll know the kind of theme for the next book anyway. But Lottie is going skiing with one of her friends, or frenemies as we call her, Amber.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to write a book about skiing because I think there's so many Lottie, it's so Lottie.
Wrong?
There's so many things that can go wrong on a skiing holiday. So it felt absolutely perfect. So that's what it's all about. And it's been a really fun one to write so far. As I say, I'm just writing this, finishing the second draft at the minute. I think it's going to be a good one, hopefully.
Have you mapped out further books after that? Have you got a sort of a clear sense of how long you want to stay with Lottie?
I've definitely got a few more books of Lottie, and then I'm not sure. Obviously, if people keep reading them, then I'd love to keep writing them. It's so much fun. And I don't really plan too much. I just sort of see where the story takes me each time. So for the next book, not so much. I've got a few ideas, but nothing major. I tend to wait until the next one's completely finished, and then I'll think more about the one after that.
Because they're also very topical, so you want to see what are the current concerns and the life going on around you. Okay, so watch this space. There is at least one more, but probably several more Lottie books books to come. What about a Lottie Brooks TV or a TV series or movie?
I don't actually know if I'm allowed to say too much, but it might be on the cards. Yep. A TV series, I think, would be the way forward. So it's something I get asked all the time on fan mail when people write to me and they say, oh, please can you create a TV series or a movie, and please can I audition for the part of Jess or Molly or Lottie or whoever it is. So I think the fans would really like it, and I think it could work really well too. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Do you have a person in mind or a sense of who you would like to play Lottie?
I just, not specifically, but I do think it would be great to just get a very everyday, normal girls. So not someone super polished from stage school, because the whole kind of point of the characters in the book is that they are so relatable and normal. So I think it'd be great to have some sort of like open auditions and try and find the right girls and boys. It would be lots of fun, I think.
It would be the girl who falls on her way up the stairs
it would.
the stage, won't
Yeah,
it be?
it would, absolutely.
I love it. It's been an absolute joy engaging with these books and having you in South Africa engaging with fans, Katie. Thank you for bringing it into the world, and thank you for coming to South Africa to share the joy of writing it.
Thank
Katie
you for
Kirby,
having me.
Huge pleasure to have you with us. Please look out for the latest book in stores now, published by Penguin Random House. I'm going to give it away now. That Person versus the Ultra Mean Girls. It's available in all good bookstores and online.